All right, we're back with another edition. Remember to like and subscribe, comment. We're going to talk about the biggest news, which is old news, but it's just now been uncovered. Kirby's being sneaky with I guess, transparency. December of 2023, was it after the SEC championship or before?
I don't know that. I don't know.
Well, if it was before Bobo got paid and he just sat on his ass and didn't really game plan. But Bobo got extended through the 2026 season. So, you know, look, I don't know. You can take it however you want to take it and address it. I just look at it from a perspective of he got extended. That doesn't mean anything, really. I mean, all that means is that if he does a okay job, he's here till 2026. That's all that really means. He can be fired at any time.
Sure. Although I don't think that's going to, just to be honest with you, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think he's going to be fired. If there's a decision made, it will be that he's stepping down and still contributing. And you and I have spoken about this on this, on air before in previous episodes or whatever. My feelings are the offense has got to get better. I don't care what the reasons are. I don't care if it's players. I don't care if it's execution. I don't know if it's scheme. All that kind of stuff. Don't care. Offense has got to get better. We've gotten away from, and maybe it's because of personnel, we've gotten away from the identity of, being physical and running the ball, in my opinion, and being able to run the ball even when other teams know we're going to be able to run the ball and assert our will. We haven't been able to do that in the last couple of years, and I think that's affected the offense. But look, a lot to be said for continuity, and Kirby's always said that. So it was apparent to me, pretty early on. Well, not early on, but after the national championship game, there wasn't going to be a change. So I didn't know certainly that he'd been extended, but it doesn't surprise me a whole lot, I guess.
No, and then the victory lap from the Bobo defenders is just that doesn't really mean that you're right. I mean, there's been a lot of people that have been extended and have gotten fired shortly thereafter. I mean, Ed Orgeron's the first one that comes to my mind. So
Right.
It doesn't really mean anything. And taking a victory lap over, I know better football than you. And Brooks Austin, you might know a little bit more than me. That's great. But I also know that whenever they start off fucking slow for 2 years back to back, 2 seasons where they start slow in every single game, I don't know, man. That starts to kind of either it's the quarterback or it's the offensive coordinator. And right now, I keep going back and forth. Right now, I would say it's more on the quarterback. But we're going to see this season, and if the story remains the same, then it's not just a quarterback issue; it's also an offensive coordinator issue.
Yeah, I don't. All I want to know is the offense we've got to acknowledge whether you're defending Bobo or not. All I want to know is I think we can all agree that we want Georgia's offense to be better, and it hasn't met the standard. It's not my job to figure out who's right and who's wrong. I'm going to trust Kirby Smart knowing who he wants as his offensive coordinator, and I trust that Kirby thinks that Bobo's the right person for the job. So I take him, I defer to him on that. All I'm saying is if you look at it objectively, wherever the fault lies, I think if you talk about a standard, the offense has not met that standard. Is that a controversial statement by me? I mean, is that
yeah? Oh, yes. So if you were on Georgia Twitter, you would have 50% agreeing with you, and then 50% disagreeing with you, and then the 50% that disagreed with you would say, there's 90% of the Georgia fan base, and the people that agreed with you would be like, here's the 90% of the fan base that thinks that it's a very hot topic.
Well, maybe I'm wrong, but maybe it's just an opinion, and because I haven't done the research, I'm not going to spend I don't get paid to do it, so therefore I'm not. But statistically, if you look at explosive plays, if you look at that third down, it take 2 years post, with Bobo's OC, and do the average, the number, I don't know, all the different types of yards per game rushing, points per game, and average them together. Was it at the level it was when Monken was here?
Points per game probably going to be more. If you take the last 2 years of Monken and then the past 2 years with Bobo, I think Bobo's going to have a better points per game, and explosive plays. It's probably I don't know. It's probably not very similar. It's probably more explosive with Monken. But I see. By the way, there's stats for both sides. That's the crazier thing. Numbers lie, stats lie, and that's why I go with what my eyes and what my brain is telling me.
That's a good point.
And I can tell you there's a night and day difference. Now, stylistically, it's a little different, but they run the same plays. There's the same concepts as Monken, and I do think the quality of players have dropped off. But not by much. So it shouldn't be that we shouldn't be seeing this wide of a gap between what we're seeing and then what we saw. And that's my overall issue with that. And I don't know why that's a very controversial thing. I think it's a 50-50 thing.
Well, here's my opinion. I'm not a huge fan of Bobo's. I think it's, you and I have talked about it, but as I said, he's a damn good dog, and I really mean that. For what he has done for the University of Georgia, both as a player and as a coach, and trusting Kirby Smart, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, and I hope he's successful. I hope I hope the offense is more successful. And again, I'm not smart enough. I don't know. I'll be the first one to admit, but I agree with you. When you look at it, Bobo's offense, the fact that we slow starts, lack of execution, all those different types, and I get it. Maybe the quality of players has gone down, but it's got to get better. And so we'll see what Bobo can do. That didn't look like there was any. Was there any offensive? There wasn't any changes on coach's staff offensively, right? That so far.
Holy. Offensive line coach didn't change. Sears, running back, no. Tight end, no.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see. I mean, everybody should know
the defensive staff, the whole staff really didn't change. It's the supporting staff that has kind of changed up a little bit.
Right. And in an era when it seems like there's changes in college football everywhere, I'm sure Kirby's right. There is a lot to be said for continuity.
Yeah, that part I do agree with. All right, do you want to do what I was talking about before we got on air, or do you want to do just more house clearing and then touch that last?
No, I think this is a good that opening topic with Bobo is a good segue into kind of what we were talking about before we came on.
Okay. All right. So what we were talking about on air, I've been kind of, I don't know why. I guess I've missed football, and Georgia's just had not a really good season. So I went back. I watched the 2022 season. You can find it on Reddit. Somebody did homework. It was a couple days after winning the national championship. It was after the parade, where someone did every single game that was on YouTube, the full games, plus reactions to the games at that time. So you could go Dog Post and find their reactions. You could go to UGAsports.com. I'm giving free plugs to other competitors. Well,
that's pretty cool, though. That's a good idea, whoever did that.
Yeah, so you can go back and you can go look at all of these things. So I had a really hard time finding one for 2021 because I finished the 2022 season. And I was like, well, you know what? I'll go back every night. before I go to bed, I'll just watch one game and watch some of the reactions. So I just did it myself. I found it on my own. Watching those two games or years, and then for some reason I was like, you know what, screw it. I don't know. I think SEC Network had it on when there was nothing on TV. They put the first time Georgia Texas played on TV, and I watched it. And watching the 21 and 22 seasons, and then watching this last season, and then you could take that and take it to the 2023 season, the offense is completely different. And it's not the plays. Plays are kind of the same, similar concepts, get people out in space, move them around,
a lot of motions.
A lot of motions. Those all remain the same. Actually, there was a play that we ran against Alabama in the national championship that we ran against Texas, and I saw it because I've saved the Georgia-Alabama game last. I'm still not done with it. I'm taking my time with it. But there was a play that we ran. It was the exact same play that we ran against Texas. So there are things that are concepts are similar. The difference between them is the quarterbacks. Stetson was able to move out of the pocket. And I hated when people were like, well, the reason why he's starting, people would get mad about it. But the reason why he's starting is because of his athleticism. It's 100% true. He could move out of the pocket. He could zip it out. The difference between Beck and Stetson, especially the first season, I would say, Stetson was kind of already able to make the smart throw. He was more able to throw the check down, and that's a willingness. Stetson didn't want to. I mean, you can go back and look at the first game that he played really well in that 21 season was against Auburn. There's some throws where you're like, damn, which is I think all Georgia fans have done at one point in time. Damn, Stetson, why would you throw that one? I don't understand what you were thinking. Stetson he had a gunslinger mentality. Now, in 22, I've never seen he was pretty good. He was a good quarterback, I would say, in 2021. Good. 22, he was elite. There were things that he was doing where I don't know if it was because he worked hard in the offseason or if it clicked. I don't know what it was. You'd have to ask Stetson about that and ask if he thought he improved. From my perspective, I think he did improve. But there were throws that he was making. He wasn't putting it in bad spots. He knew the offense like the back of his hand. I mean, that Oregon game in 22 where he's running around everywhere and throwing the ball, he knows where people are supposed to be in their spots. You can also see that in the Ohio State game in 22. That's something that you couldn't see from Beck. If Beck was going to extend the play, he had to run and he had to run forward. Not Stetson. He could run side to side and throw it or take off and run it. And that to me is the biggest difference between, the past 2 years and the last 2 years of Monken.
Well, it's interesting, a different type of athlete, but Carson Beck is athletic, I don't know why. I don't know why. Maybe he's not as fast as Stetson. I don't know, but here's what I would say: Gunnar Stockton has more of that skill set, I think, but it may be a different type because I don't think he's as fast as Stetson either. So. No. I don't know. It's interesting, but Stetson too also had really elite skill players around him. There's not a whole lot of Brock Bowers, right? There's not, what's his name? Our guy is escaping me now. That plays for Steelers. What's his name? George Pickens. Yeah. There's not a whole Rosemary Jack Saint. The really good, talented offensive line that can get you, 3 and 4 yards. So there's a lot of that too. I'm not diminishing what you're saying, but whatever. Stetson was special, especially that 2022 season. I agree with you, and he was also he knew he played with a. I mean, we all agree the body language of Stetson Bennett versus Carson Beck. Those are not even the same universe, right?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, you go watch that 2021 game against Michigan in the Orange Bowl. We have a 21-3 lead or a 24-3 lead. I forget how much we had.
Him and Kirby get into it.
Yeah, and him and Kirby. I mean, and Kirby's losing it. Stetson is like basically dismissive of him, and arguing with him. You did not see Kirby do that with Carson Beck, and Carson was not
the
going
exact opposite. He was coddled to a certain degree by Kirby, treated him completely different than how he treated Stetson. Because
and that to me is the difference, because you would see nobody played a worse on an opening drive than Stetson Bennett did against Alabama in the national championship. I mean, the first play was
fumble, right?
The first play was a sack. The second play was a fumble, bounced to himself, and then the third was almost an interception on the sideline. Yeah. I mean, it was just. And then, by the way, we had a false start in between all of that, in between second and third down. So no one played worse, but you could see it didn't really bother Stetson. Okay, well, we fucked up that one. Let's go get it again.
Yeah.
Carson, though, if those chain of events happened during a drive, it was all going to come crumbling down around him.
Yeah, I agree.
And you saw that a lot.
Yeah. Stetson had a sense of determination whenever, and I'm not saying that Carson didn't, but the body language and the demeanor when stuff like that would happen was completely different between Stetson and Carson Beck. So that's interesting, though. It'd be to go back and I haven't done that. Obviously, I don't know who has, but to go back and watch the offense when it was really clicking, even early on, when it wasn't, I guess was it, what year was it when we played Arkansas at Arkansas and wore the red pants? Was that 20?
Yeah, it was the COVID year. That's whenever you were like, we're never going to win with Stetson. And then I said, I think we could.
Yep, I was wrong.
I was a believer in Stetson from the get-go.
Anyway, even that year, I think it was. I would say to you, there were some times when you saw Monken's offense, and you were like, "Man, this thing is a thing of beauty, right?"
Yeah.
And then the wheels would come off, and it would be like, golly, grinding dirt. And then you saw glimpses of what it could be. Yeah. I have not seen a glimpse of what Bobo's offense can be yet. I'll be honest with you. I haven't.
No.
So I'm looking forward to that day, but we haven't seen it. We haven't witnessed it yet.
Yeah, well, two things. So the first thing is you brought up the 20 season, and I was going to bring that up. Stetson, and I've heard him in interviews say he wasn't where he needed to be, and that's what drove him in the offseason of 21 to get better. And by the way, there was a huge difference between 2020 Stetson and 2021 Stetson, for sure. But you could see glimpses, but those guys around him, the offense really hadn't been all put together, wasn't fully baked yet. And I would say that 20 team was probably just as good as this year's team, I would say. Right? Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah, I'd have to go back and analyze it.
Yeah, just go and look at the offense from 20 and then take the 2024 team.
Well, I think there was a lot more, just different. It was more with injuries on the offensive line this year, but there was a lot of up and down with quarterback that year too. It was Stetson, it was JT, right?
Dwan Mathis.
Yeah.
So they were
threw it to the wrong guy on the sideline.
hit a poor kid in the head.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of up and down, and I think those 2 years are very similar, actually, offensively. But there was improvement. Now, we don't have the same quarterback. He's down in Miami wearing the number 11 now with his girlfriend. and we now either have Puglisi or we have Gunnar Stockton. To me, and I don't know, from what I have seen from Puglisi, to me, I think he is more of the Stetson Bennett type. Because I think you have to have, I don't think it has to be athleticism. I think you have to have that to run this type of offense that Georgia's running. But I think you have to be nimble. I think you got to be able to move in tight spaces. Beck wasn't able to do that. He was too big, I think. And maybe Gunner can, but Gunner's going to try to run you over. He's not going to try to shift in and out and be shifty. Stetson was able to be shifty and create things in tight spaces. Watching Puglisi and his feet work or his footwork in the way his arm angle, again, it's like a baseball player, like a shortstop, running, throwing it to first. That's kind of what it reminds me of, and that's very similar to Stetson. Now, I don't know how that all plays out. I'm pretty sure Gunner's going to be announced the starter, if I had to guess. But
do you think he'll be announced after spring? I don't, because it opens it up to transfer portal.
Well, I think, I mean, dude, it was kind of wild to me that after Stetson left, immediately Beck was anointed the starter. And, we had Vandergriff. Obviously, I think Kirby might have known what we had out of him. And then we also had Gunner. I was very surprised that there wasn't a quarterback competition. It was kind of just blown.
I don't know. I would imagine knowing Kirby. I mean, if he may have changed in this era, he may have to. But years past, Kirby would not announce coming out of spring who the starter. He would take a quarterback battle going into fall camp.
Yeah, to me,
I think.
I've been pretty consistent on this. I mean, I was excited to see what Gunner had after the SEC championship. I think also I was pretty tired of watching Beck and the offense, so I just wanted to see what would happen. I was pulling for it. I'm not the biggest fan of Gunner Stockton. He's not my type of quarterback. I know that doesn't know who really fucking cares, but he's just not my type of quarterback, and I don't like watching those quarterbacks play. And to me, Puglisi is more of the style that I like. But we'll see. I'm wanting him to play, so I'm just going to be biased and announce it right now.
Well, here's what I don't know how many people, there may be a lot that are familiar with Puglisi, but kids out of, I think, Connecticut, out of the Northeast, I do know that. And Monken loved the guy. And for everything
took him over Raiola, by the way.
Oh yeah. And that's the other thing to keep in mind. He still stayed with Georgia, and he was in the same class as Raiola, and he never backed off his commitment to Georgia, so he wasn't afraid of the competition. So obviously the kid's confident. Monken liked him. People that have seen him throw says he's got and I've seen him throw just against air. They said he's the real deal with his arm. And I heard him say something about he wants to be able to teach the playbook. So evidently he's going to make a commitment to really learn the offense. We'll see what we got. I just hope, I think he will eventually be Georgia's quarterback.
Yeah, me too.
And I think he's probably talented from everything that I've seen. I don't know. I'll again trust Bobo and coaching staff to see who starts. I'll be happy. Look, if Gunner gets it, I think Georgia can win with Gunner.
I do too. I want to actually, it's a good point because I was going to bring this up, not to cut you off, but I hope if Gunner's a starting quarterback, I hope he has as much success as any other quarterback ever in Georgia football history. But that's stylistically not my type. Some people like jazz. Some people like hair metal, rock and roll. I don't know, man. Some people dig it. Some people don't. I don't dig it. I see Puglisi, thank you, on air. I've seen tape of him. I like him better. I like the way he moves. He kind of reminds me of Stetson, just a little bit taller. Honestly, and I know he's from the Northeast, who he kind of reminds me of, he's Matt Ryan with a better arm. And a lot of
He's not
people
as tall as Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan
no,
is 6'5", 6'6". I think
right.
this kid's 6'3". I mean, he's tall enough.
He's
Yeah.
tall. The thing is, people don't because Matt Ryan looked goofy as hell, but Matt Ryan was fairly athletic,
Yeah.
and could move in tight spaces. That's kind of how this guy plays, and he has a better arm, right as of right now. Now that could change, but has a better arm. More my style quarterback. I like to watch him play. And by the way, if you want to know how good this kid is, he was a true freshman this year. When Beck's injury happens, people go, well, who's the number 2 after Gunner?
Yeah.
He's the number 2. Rashada, who started at Arizona State, he was the third string, essentially, the fourth string.
I think he saw he wasn't going to beat the kid out. If he was already slotted below him, there's no way he was going to. Right. I think that was a real. I agree with you. That was a big statement by Kirby.
Yes, and I watched Rashada, and I was really excited for him whenever he came to Georgia. I thought, wow, this guy's really good. Or he has talent. He's a diamond in the rough, but he can play. And he was a starter at a Power 5 program that was pretty good. And so that's a big statement, like you said. That's a big statement on his Puglisi's
We're gonna have to call him
Pug.
Since we're the Bulldogs, we'll call him Pug.
Yeah, he's going to end up being Pug. It's hard to say his name really fast. So Pug has one Fanville number 1 right here. That's me. All right. So what will be interesting, final thought here. I know I've talked a lot. Final thought. What will be interesting to see is the narrative around Carson Beck's success and ACC with Miami, and then whatever happens with Georgia this year on offense. I think our defense is going to be really good this year. I've been pretty bullish on that. It will be interesting to see what happens if Georgia's offense struggles a little bit at the beginning. What's the media narrative?
It's going to be hard for us if he has, and I mean, we shouldn't be this way. If he has success and Georgia has a down year, watching any kind of like Sports Center or SEC
College Game
Tonight,
Day.
College Game Day. First of all, it'll be a storyline.
Oh yeah,
it'll be a theme every week. That's going to be difficult to swallow.
And look, I think if you're a logical Georgia, if you're a logical Georgia fan, that's an oxymoron. But if you're logical about it, Carson Beck is probably going to have great success at Miami. Yeah. It's a great landing spot for him. He's going to play terrible defenses his entire season that he's down there. And Miami's going to be way more talented than half the teams that they play. So he's going to have success, and he's going to probably put up gaudy numbers. And so you're going to see this compare and contrast whenever you can't compare and contrast, because we saw what happened last year, and it was not good enough. He was not welcome back. So I don't know why I'm already getting myself annoyed by it, but just so everyone knows that watches this channel, this will be a talking point, and we will have to talk about it probably early September, right before we play Tennessee on the third week of the season.
Yeah, well, we'll do it then. I don't want to get myself pissed off about something that hasn't happened yet.
No, I'm already.
I got enough to be pissed off about what has happened.
All right, and then let's do some news and notes. Anything to take away? It was like 2 weeks ago or last week where I almost called him Greg McGarity again, man. That's really bad. Josh Brooks and Jair Moorhead. I guess the only big thing out of it was the confirmation of the spring game.
Yeah, that was the biggest thing. There's a lot of schools canceling, which I can understand why they would do it, canceling their spring game. Texas announced they were, but Georgia announced that they were going to keep it. I imagine, one of the primary reasons Kirby's going to keep it. Number one, he believes in physicality. A, B, I think he does it for recruiting. And I think he sees it as an asset when it comes to recruiting. And I think that's the reason Georgia's keeping it. We'll see how long they keep it. Evidently, if you look at the athletic department of each one of these universities, spring game's a loser for them, right?
Right.
So anyway, I think you're going to see more. I wouldn't be surprised if it's more common not to have a spring game than it is to have one. But I'm glad Georgia's still having it, but they haven't announced the date of it.
No, and if I had to guess, it would be April 12th. That's why I keep seeing what people are talking about it. So I think it's going to be around then, but who really knows? Also, side note, I know we've already, kind of had I don't know what's the word, I had some words for Josh Brooks. The statement of, well, we're going to have a spring game because, sometimes for our fans, that's the only time that they can come and watch a game in Sanford Stadium. Josh, hello, you fucking outpriced half of the fan base.
Expensive, man. It's too pricey for most people. It really is. And especially when you got shitty teams. I know this season's a lot different, but still, last several seasons. But yes, it's too pricey. But he's right. You'll see. And again, I think it's a good thing. You'll see people at a spring game that would never get to come to Athens in the fall, right?
No. And to me, I think that, every Georgia fan, if you're able to, should be able to go to at least one home game. I don't think it's that crazy to do. I mean, Major League Baseball, I know there's 81 home games, but you can go to a Braves game for $10 and at least be and have the experience of going to a game. I know you can't price it that cheap, but come on. You got 93,000 people. You can lower the cost just a tad, but they refuse to do it. And it's nothing. It really bothers me because that hurts, by the way, that hurts recruiting. Indirectly, it does.
I don't know. I think you're going to have to. It's not just Georgia. It's all SEC. I'm sure has gone up on price.
Well, maybe Vanderbilt and Mississippi State. They probably have competitive prices.
Yeah.
Actually, it's probably too expensive given the product on the field. But it is a little. That statement is just a really crazy thing to say, given the fact that people, even season ticket holders, have said this is getting ridiculous.
Right.
You keep increasing it. All right, and then is there any outside of the spring game? Our boy Damian Evans was not caught with panties this time. He was announced to be. Wasn't it red panties, by the way? I think it was Georgia themed. But not caught with panties this time. He's announced as one of the selectors of the CFP. Do you think that works in favor of us or works against us?
I was wondering that too. I don't know if he's got a bad taste in his mouth or not. Well, I guess it depends on the panties, but no, I don't know if he feels like he was done wrong by Georgia or not. I would imagine he has to understand that if you get caught with drawers and it's not your wife,
and drunk.
Yeah, it's probably not. It's not a good reflection on the university you represent. I don't know. I did hear, by the way, while we're talking, the guy from Michigan stepped down. It was his time to rotate off as well. So there's new people. I'm not sure we can expect any better results, but yeah, it'll be interesting to.
But by the way, still a very heavy Big Ten influence. There's not a lot of SEC guys.
I don't know. Again, who makes the decision of where and how many can come from different places? You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand that. And I know you're supposed to be objective, but when you're used to watching, if you're a Big Ten, you're used to watching Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan, whatever you're used to seeing, you're going to put more emphasis on those games, no matter how objective you try to be, and more likely to put those teams, right? You're going to rank them higher.
Yeah, and then again,
same with the SEC, by the way.
I mean, yeah, sure. It should be kind of even with all the Power Four conferences.
I think it should be. I think it should be. I think it should be the Big Ten and SEC should have the most, and they should have equal, because the other conferences, unless, I mean, if we're wanting to get, that's the thing. We keep. I don't want to get into this again, but are we getting the best 12? Because if we're looking to get the best 12, we know the SEC and the Big Ten has the best teams. Put more emphasis on them, and I'm sorry, the other conferences are just going to have to lump it.
Yeah, if you're going to make it fair all across the board for everyone, if you're going to make it like a communist regime, you have to have representation and make it equal for the Big Ten, the SEC, the Big 12, and the ACC, and then a group of 5 as well. Well, you're going to have to. So here, by the way, here are the members. So Mac Rose, who's Baylor, he's now the lead. No more Boog. You got Mark D'Antonio, Michigan State. I mean, of course, and he's a hardcore Big Ten guy. Damon Evans, who is he's now Maryland's AD. And then Middle Tennessee State, which I don't understand. This is Chris. I don't understand. I don't even know how to say his last name. I'm not going to try. Ole Miss tight end Wesley Walls. I don't even know who that is.
I remember that name for sure.
And then this is one I know, Ivan Manziel, and then Steve Weiberg, who are both riders. Ivan Manziel, I think, he grew up in Alabama, went to Stanford, so he's very interesting. He's very knowledgeable. Actually, out of all the sports writers in college football, I liked him the most whenever he worked at ESPN. I think he was in The Athletic. I think he was really good. I think the way he could tell stories were good. I don't know what that means, though, for selecting the 12 best teams. But, I like him a lot. I think he's a knowledgeable person. I think also he's very logical. So I have no clue when Ivan goes in there and he starts telling people, well, I don't know. I don't know how it's all going to work. But he's about the only person that I have any confidence in.
Yeah, well, it's almost like the Wizard of Oz, right? Behind the curtain, we just don't know, and that was the other thing: the transparency of how this is being judged, what the criteria was, how the seedings were done, all that stuff. We need to work on it. But look, at the end of the day, I think Ohio State was the best team this year. I think they were. So they got that right. They were. They were the best team. They had the most talent. And at the end of the year, after that Michigan loss, they woke the fuck up.
That's the thing. That's the thing that bothers me the most about this whole season is if we were in any other format, Ohio State would have been dead in the water after that Michigan game. And the regular season, the reason what makes college football so great is the regular season. And you can have Saturdays where you look at it and you go, God, all these games suck. And then that's where chaos happens. And you are stripping that away. That's why college football to college football fans is so much better.
We said this at the.
I know we did.
Yeah. And so I don't disagree with you, but
to me, the best teams were Georgia. Oh, well, not in particular order. Georgia was not the number one team. Oregon was the best team. Then you could have the argument for Georgia. Then you could have the argument for Notre Dame could have been in there for sure. I think and then probably Ohio State. Where they were at was not where they needed to be. The seating is off. There's no world where Georgia played Notre Dame. In no world would that happen on the first round. I don't get it. The whole thing is a clusterfuck, but whatever. That's another video for another day, and we're almost 40 minutes into this video. So anyway, all right. Remember to like and subscribe, comment, tell me why I'm wrong about Bobo. Tell us why we're wrong about Bobo. Tell me why I'm an idiot for watching over what 30-something games with Georgia over the past 2 months. So you can tell me that. All right, and then remember to follow us on all socials on Terminus Sports _ATL on Twitter, on Instagram, and TikTok. We're big on TikTok. And then our presenting sponsors, Unishippers. We're going to get a new sponsorship soon, but Unishippers.
Yeah, we work with small to medium-sized businesses on helping them reduce their shipping cost. And that's if a business has anything from an envelope all the way up to a pallet to a full truckload, typically we can help them reduce their cost between 6 and 15% and pick up some operational efficiency. So if you think you're spending too much on your shipping, feel free to reach out to Holland Martin at Unishippers Atlanta, and we'll provide a no obligation cost analysis.
All right. Shout out Holland. Shout out Unishippers has been great as our presenting sponsor. All right. We'll see you on the other side.
All right. See ya.